Ladies and gentlemen, the travel and hospitality industry is transforming. Airplanes are traveling further. Restaurants are forecasting how busy they'll be. Airports are becoming more frictionless. Food delivery marketplaces are going global, faster. And hotels are personalizing the recommendations they make to offer you the right room for the right stay. In this fast-paced industry, companies are innovating rapidly, and AWS is how. Welcome to the AWS Travel and Hospitality Leadership Session. I'm David Peller. I run the global travel and hospitality practice at AWS. The travel industry and hospitality industries cover many different sectors. We work with industry leaders around the world to help them with their innovation and to support them no matter what their size. We're lucky to have leaders from across the industry here today to help share their stories, to explain to you how they use technology services to reduce their costs, to innovate faster, and to deliver personalized guest experiences and reduce and improve their operational efficiency. Personalization is a key topic on the minds of most travel and hospitality companies. We actually have a session later today here in the MGM at 12:15 if you're interested in learning more about that session. We also have a chalk talk tomorrow for those with a more technical orientation to learn about contact centers and customer service solutions specifically relevant to the industry. Many leading travel and hospitality companies have chosen to go all in with AWS. This enables them to take full advantage of our cloud services, which has the most services, the deepest set of capabilities, and the fastest pace of innovation. Today, we're going to hear from 3 such customers as we go on a journey around the world. First, we'll take flight with Korean Airlines. We'll then check into our destination with choice hotels, and then we'll satisfy and satiate ourselves with a gourmet meal delivered courtesy of Deliveroo. So without further ado, let me please welcome Kenny Chang, the Executive Vice President from Korean Airlines, to share his company's.
Hi, y'all. So before we get started, let's see how this works first. Okay, so here we go. So I just wanted to give you a little taste about Korean Air. I don't know how many of you guys have heard Korean Air, but Korean Air is a national carrier out of South Korea. But we're also celebrating 50 years. But the big factor here is that you're all from the US, so I'll just give you some comparison of the size of the country. South Korea is 1/3 size of New York. We're 50 million population. The interesting fact is that we have 7 carriers within the country. 2 full-service carriers, one of is us, with 5 low-cost carriers. And as of last month, and this month and next month, 3 more low-cost carriers are either starting or got their license to start business. So that gives you a competitiveness out of such a small country with small populations. But another fact is that the destination from Gimpo to Jeju Island, which is the 2 destinations, most busiest route in the world, over 74,000 flights per year. So that tells you the magnitude of the transportation, especially in the airline industry, that we have to deal, as a Korean Air, have to deal with. Not only the competitors, but also all the global travelers coming into Korea to visit this destination or using that as a hub to their destination. So Korean Air is celebrating 50 years. And with all the latest changes and all the competitiveness coming in, we actually have to relook at our company. Our company model is the excellence in flight. What that means is, as you see it in here, is that we're going to be excellence in service, excellence in innovation, and excellence in delivering the best of services for you guys. So I won't go into the slides. You guys will have the copy of the slides. I'm just going to get you highlights, and because I have 15 minutes to share with you my journey with AWS, so I'll make it very quick. But we're challenged now with all this competitiveness, like I said. So we actually looked into the company and realized that we needed to change the way we operate and service the customers. So we came up with another model called let's be the most loved airline in the world. So what we did was we really looked at from bottom up. I think the toughest thing is being safe. We wanted to make sure you feel safe flying with us from A to B, where your destination is. Because as an airliner, we have an illusion that we don't have to change because we are dealing with people's lives. So safety has always been our first, safety has been always our second, and safety has been always our third priority. And with industry being so heavily regulated, we actually gave us reasons to kind of slow down on our innovation. But as you see, half the people sitting here are probably younger, below 30. I'm in the over range, but some of you guys are under 30, in the 40s and 50s range. Our expectations are different when we fly. I believe most of you guys have experiences where you flew 1 hour to full 10 hours with frustrations in the plane. The frustrations started with the airport. Frustrations started before that with purchasing your ticket, maybe checking in. So we as an airline are not only looking at from flying you from point A to point B, but we have to look at from the entire journey that consists of 8 different touch points where you actually make your consideration journey planning, then search, then book, get to the airport, you fly, then you get to the destination, fly back, and you go home. So we as an airline now need to look at all of the overall 8 phases of the touch points. So we actually looked at our infrastructure, and we realized that we still had TPF, all mainframe systems. We had most of our programming was done in client-server mode, and especially at the airports where you still see green screens. I mean, I used to program those a while back, and that was like 25 years ago. We still do it. So what we did was we made a decision that we needed to break how we were working, especially from the IT perspective, and be able to deliver to the business what they're looking for faster so that they can actually satisfy the customers in terms of what they're looking for. This is the reason why we actually selected AWS. So just to give you a little bit of history, we outsourced our data center to IBM for the past 22 years. So we, as a Korean Air IT, had a pleasure, or actually, maybe it wasn't a pleasure, maybe had actually put ourselves into a corner where all we did was end up managing IBM for all the infrastructure. But that didn't give us the flexibility, scalability, and the speed that we're looking for to innovate. So that's why we decided to go all in with AWS for the next 50 years of becoming the most loved airliner. So starting with AWS is not easy. I'm sure some of you have started here, some of you may not. Some of you are already ahead of before Korean Air, but it's not easy. There's a lot of myth saying cloud is the easier way to go, but how do you get there is the key. How do you get your staff, your company, your executives to understand that this is the path for you to deliver the changes quicker, to meet the customer requirements, which is now connected everywhere? Who's looking for fast response, looking for, I think it's beyond personalization. Personalization is something that we use as a terminology, but every single one of you in here is looking for something different than someone that's sitting next to you. So we as an organization need to understand that there was a lot of changes that needed to happen. So first of all, we started with culture. Then we actually decided that we needed to revamp our organization. So as a Korean Air, we announced a different organization this Friday based on the future of direction. And third is actually leveraging the technology, not from the IT perspective, but bringing the technology to the business users so that they can themselves go and innovate. They don't have to depend on IT to say, can you deliver this function for me? Can you deliver this for me? So I'll get to some of the examples. But these are the main fundamental layers that we had to bring into the corporation to make sure that AWS as a partner for us from a technology perspective, but it just then ended up being a technology. It ended up being a partner for us to become the most loved airliner for the next 50 years. So business challenge was operational, and innovation, and services. These are the three vision statements that we have. So how do we get there? So business agility, predictive maintenance, and customer experience. I'll talk to you about it a little bit in the back. So when we started the journey with AWS, like I said, we outsourced for the past 22 years, and we didn't know where to go. We knew that we had to change, but we didn't know where. So it gave us an opportunity to really look at our inventory, and we realized over 1,000 applications had 1,000 different architecture. Every single one was unique. And the reason is because the point of development was all different. The requirements came from different departments, and we had to address that to point. So on the left-hand side, if you look at it, optimizations. This is where we actually decided to take our data center, now move everything to AWS. Well, how do we do it? So we actually decided to go on a hybrid model. So AWS lined up with LG Siemens, which is one of the SI companies in Korea, who had the data center operational experience. So we went through 3 phases. We planned for 3 phases, 3 years. 1, 2, and 3. 1 was we're going to actually look at all the independent applications and to make a decision, we're going to do lift shift, refactor, redevelopment. Second phase, which we're going through now, so after first phase, we moved 17% of our servers, including applications, to AWS. So phase 2 will end as of June next year. By the end, we'll have 60% of our workloads moved to AWS. And June of 2021, we'll have 99.97% of it moved over. There are a few applications that are dealing with airport services that cannot be moved. So those are excluding, so 99.97% will be moved in 3 years. So in order for us to less disrupt the business, we had to go with hybrid model. But our goal is in 3 years, we're moving everything to AWS. So far, so good. So let me knock on the wood here. But so far, so good. On the right-hand side is innovation. We'll talk about the predictive maintenance very quickly, homepage development, and experiment. Experiment is very interesting because we wanted to make sure not only IT, but the business understands what this new technology brings to them. So we continue to experiment, and led by the AWS professional services, and also a lot of training that they're defining for us called Guild, where they're not only training the IT, but they're also training the business, and the executives become the champions of the company to drive innovation. So I'll go through the next slide just to show you. So as an experiment, one of the things that we did was, as we were moving the 17% of the workload, I don't know how many of you guys as a company gives you or provides meals as your employee benefits, but Korean Air, with 20,000 employees, we provide meals as a benefits for our hardworking colleagues. And your qualification of how many meals per day depends on which level of work do you do. And 2/3 of our workforce actually is on the field, either in the airports or up in the air or actually in overseas. So how do we deal with the magnitude of making sure everyone gets fed at a certain time? And we work with 28 different catering partners. And previous application was client server. And every day our HR used to make sure people that were qualified, information is pushed out to a central server, then someone takes a USB and plugs it in and go to cafeteria, all the catering places, and plug it and load it. But that was okay. But the problem for the catering company was that they needed to bill us every month. And there was a lot of discrepancies. So that was one of the applications that we decided to redevelop. So after 2 weeks of hardcore training by the AWS, 3 of our engineers developed something called Cow Spoon. So Korean Airlines Spoon, so we're saying we're feeding you. This is based on Lambda, API Gateway, and Aurora DB. So we got away from CS straight to serverless Lambda, just using quick API gateways and using Aurora DB. So it's a very new experience for us. But this was developed in 2 weeks rather than upgrading. That would have took us 2 months. And the funny thing was, we actually were able to develop our first app that was QR code based. So our catering company, if you go, just have a QR code. You scan it. It tells you if you're qualified. It tells you on the app how many meals you have left, how many you've spent, where you spent it. So everyone's now realizing the quickness of this technology. And from our HR perspective, now this is consolidated on a real-time basis, so they don't have to reconcile or differences that they have to deal with catering companies. Catering companies now actually bill us every day at the end of their billing cycle or end of their operations, so they get paid faster. So with 2 weeks of training, 2 weeks of development, we were able to deploy out a mission critical for our employees. If you don't get fed, you get angry. Think about it. Someone who's maintaining airplane is hungry. They can't focus. We wanted to make sure everyone's happy. So this was only within a 1 month, we were able to overturn some of the old technology that we used for 10 years. So predictive maintenance is another area. So this is about machine learning. What we wanted to do was, that was on the IT side. This is more on the business side. We wanted to make sure the business got involved in the transformation. And what we did was we actually worked with our maintenance. So if you look at airplanes, you get into the airport and everyone, plane moves around, but it has maintenance cycles. And it goes with different levels of qualification rounds. And of course, there's unknown defects that could happen. And so what we did was, because we've been operating for 50 years, we have the data. And we had proven data sets that showed when potential components would fail. So we actually wanted to put this through the, SageMaker. They said SageMaker was so well done, we said, okay, let's try it. So what we did was we gave the data to the AWS team. There's data scientists came, worked with us about 2 weeks, came back with the result. What we realized was that the result that they gave us was exactly what we had verified by our experts. So just to give you a little bit more information here, this is about an engine. So PW, Pratt & Whitney, is one of our partners for engine. And as an engine, it consists of a lot of components that you cannot see from external, outside in. You have to be able to understand the design to really, respect the sophistication within the engine. And what we did was we realized most of the engine, wear and tear comes from when you take off. And so we call it blade. There's multiple blades, but it's called bleed 2.5. It's a valve. When the air pressure comes in, it opens up and gives you that boost to take the plane up in the air. And that's where most wear and tear was coming. So we actually took that data and fed it in to see if it had matched our past results. Like I said, it did. But the reason why we thought SageMaker was good was not because it matched our result, but SageMaker was able to give us the prediction in future of what potential could be based on the patterns of machine learning, where we know, as a human being, with our experience, we know what the result is, but we can't predict. So we wanted to put machine learning towards safety into it, but someone asked yesterday, so how can you let machine learning dictate when the part's going to be coming down? What we said is that's going to give a recommendation to our experts. They're going to look at it, they make a decision. I don't know if you guys know, but if engine it comes out every 5 years, or depending on cycles of the airplane, goes through an overhaul, costs multi-million-dollars. But if engine goes unknown, because it needs to come down irregularly, that's additional cost for Korean Air. And also, it's disruption to you guys because we have to switch out the planes. So it not only helped us from preventing and increasing the level of safety, but also helped us from potentially doing a lot of cost savings. So we can do early detection, early predictive maintenance, that actually gives us a bit more understanding of how we can deliver better services and safety to you guys. Third is, this is what now the final stage will be, to touch points to the customers. So we actually introduced our .com and mobile app 5 years ago when we migrated our previous PSS, which is a booking engine, to Amadeus. And it was a monolithic architecture. So from IT perspective, we had a challenge when we had to roll out a very simple fix. We had, rollout cycles, which was weekly basis. If it was a major fix, it was once a month. So whenever a customer had a failure of making payments, we couldn't fix it right away. We couldn't fix the flow of taking you from origin and destination, your date, your class, and your rate that you want to go. What you had to do is go all the way back. So 5 years back, that was a good architecture for us because we handle 20% of our $12 billion revenue through .com. So it's a massive amount of transaction. So what we realized is that, like I said, everyone's connected these days. It doesn't matter if you're in Korea, US, Sao Paulo, somewhere in Europe. When you connect into .com, you want to make sure that you feel comfortable. It's in your local language. You are able to jump through the steps because sometimes someone just knows exactly what they want to do. Go from Incheon to, say, Las Vegas. This date, I want to book it. Versus someone who's trying to search the lowest rates. So the needs are different. And there's millions of combinations of user experiences that happen that we try when we analyze it. So we decided rather than to lift, replatform, refactor into AWS, we decided that we're going to redevelop everything using AWS Microsoft's architecture. So we work with professional services for past 3 weeks, plus more. Of course, that's all the discussion. We finalized on architecture. This is just to show you in the back, sorry. Just to show you, we'll have the slide. But in the back-end layer, it's not going to be as multi-layer like Amazon.com, but we're starting our layers to be more Microsoft architecture. So our initial rollout of next year, or the year after, 2021 January, will be based on all microservices, container-based from AWS. So we went from IT, first of all, then work with the business to make sure they understand technology. Now we're actually touching the customer points with latest technologies, which we believe will bring in more satisfied customers and more of us understanding what the customers really need. So I know I have other slides and I'm running out of time, so we'll end it here, but I just wanted to let you know that, the most important thing is, I think it's about culture. You need to make sure your employees, your colleagues, your management understand that this is not just a technology. It's actually an innovative path as a group to really deliver what the customer is expecting. So it's a good journey. Hopefully that, when we complete our journey in 2021 June, I can come up here again and show you the more examples specific to the IT transformation. But for now, this is what I have. Sorry took too much of your time. If you have any questions, I'll be in the back later. But at this time, let me introduce you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks.
True hospitality fashion, we're taking you through airline, lodging, food, and we added a little disco with the false alarm there, so hopefully everybody's doing okay with their eyes now with the flashing. My name's Brian Kirkland. I'm the CTO from Choice Hotels. Some of you may actually not know what Choice Hotels is or who we are if you're sitting in the audience, but I'm betting at least some of you recognize one of our brands. Now, either way, what you probably don't know is that we're 3 companies in one. First, we're a hospitality company. We represent 1 in 10 hotels in the United States and 1 out of every 4 hotels in the mid-scale segment. We have a hotel brand for every price point for every guest. Second, we are a franchising company. We represent a powerful network of small business owners that own and manage over 7,000 hotels in over 40 countries around the globe. And third, we are a proud technology company. We provide technology and services that serve our guests and help our hotel owners successfully run their businesses. Now, it's my job to make sure that our systems are built so they can scale and handle the work of the business that it demands and deliver the performance we need to drive profitability. It's not just profitability for Choice. It's profitability for those small business owners that have depended on Choice, and they've depended on us for over 80 years. Now, we actually have a very long history of innovation. We pioneered many firsts that later became industry standards. For example, we were the first major hotel chain to offer an iOS Apple app. We were the first to offer a cloud-based property management system back in 2015, and since then, we've implemented a cloud-first strategy on everything new that we build. But recently, we actually made some very big investments in the cloud. Now, at the core of our business is a complicated global reservation system. This is the source of truth for hotel room availability rates and inventory for over 500 million hotel rooms, and it's a highly distributed system. It's integrated with thousands of third-party sites where you can book our hotels, and it supports the needs of our guests whose travel plans change constantly. We have to keep that information updated everywhere, real time, 24/7, 365 days a year. Because if we don't, your vacations, your work travel, they could be disrupted. Now, as you can imagine, for a business that's been around for decades and an industry that's been around for centuries, a lot of our systems are not built for today's digital demands. So we made the bold decision to re-engineer our entire platform from the ground up, native to the cloud. And we worked directly with AWS to make this happen. Now, Choice Hotels is the first major hotel company to engineer our own cloud-based global reservation system, and we call it Choice Edge. It's truly the beating heart of our business. And honestly, this investment's paying off big time for us. We're seeing significant cost reduction. We're using almost entirely spot instances in all of our environments. We're able to run significantly more volume through our systems than ever before, and at better performance. And we're using technologies like Aurora and Lambda to make sure that our engineers are focusing on business value rather than on infrastructure. And we're rolling out business features in a fraction of the time it used to take. For example, we are integrating onboarding new partners 10 times faster than industry norms. Now, this project has been a huge success for Choice, and it's delivering on all of the promise of the cloud. Let's step back for a moment. The journey to rebuild the beating heart of our business from the ground up, it didn't just happen. We spent a lot of time planning. We spent a lot of time driving culture change. I think you're going to hear a theme here today. We spent a lot of time restructuring our organization to make sure that we were set up for cloud success because things are just different in the cloud. Now, although we learned a lot when we built our property management system back in 2015 for the cloud, when we started with Choice Edge, we knew that how we had been successful in the past wasn't going to get us there where we needed to be going forward. So we completely separated this team, and we created basically a startup within. Picture Netflix when Netflix separated streaming from the DVD business, right? We took a startup mentality and we said, let's take this team, let's put everybody that we need to make this team successful into one place. We actually moved them to a separate building. And we said, let's create a culture, let's create a process, let's bring the right people together, and let's treat it like a startup because we have to figure out a new way to operate and a new way to deliver on the success that the cloud makes possible, but it wasn't going to be the same way we delivered things in the past. So a lot of it was about getting the right team in place, getting the right environment in place, getting the right structure in place to be successful before we ever started writing a bunch of lines of code. Now, when you get that team in place, you really need to focus on building the right team culture. We had to make sure that everybody in the team had a shared vision. Everybody understood what we were trying to achieve, believed in it, was part of the success, understood where we were headed, and we had to make sure that the culture included some very important key truths. You had to have the freedom to fail fast, or maybe said a better way, to learn quickly. Right? We don't aim to fail, but we want to learn quickly so we can react. We had the expectation that you're going to fall forward. Right? When we learn quickly, fall forward and move forward, iterate quickly on what you're doing. And you had to have a growth mindset. The concept there being your mind should be framed around how can we, not why can't we. Because there's a very different philosophy and very different opportunities available in the cloud than ever before. Now, I truly believe that the culture we created was a key part of the success of the project and the work that we were doing. Now, fast forward to today. We are 100% live on Choice Edge today. We went live with 0 downtime for our franchisees, and you got to think about this. This is the core system that runs our entire business. We went live with no downtime. We went live with over 30 external partners, all of them wanting us to move to their latest and greatest APIs in that process. We did that in the middle of our peak summer season, and we did that on time, on budget, and no customer impact. That's a huge amount of success and work that we were able to deliver working with AWS, working with our team, and honestly was a large part driven by that culture and the team that we created and the work that they did. So because of that success, Choice actually has another first. We were the first hotel company to announce going all in with AWS. We're on a journey, it's a multi-year journey, where we're going to actually migrate everything on our systems into the cloud. That is going to be a significant opportunity for us as we move forward, and we're well on that path already. We're about a year into that journey. Now, cost and performance, they're not the only reasons that we're moving to the cloud. We actually believe that the digital evolution of our industry, it requires it. Technologies like machine learning, AI, VR, they're causing fundamental shifts in what our guests expect and what is possible with the cloud and with our technology. Now, let me give you an example. Now, a lot of you might be from SaaS businesses, or you might be from e-commerce. In those businesses, if you sell extra product, it's actually a good thing, right? You can tell your customers the product's in the back order, or you can source more inventory. In software services, you just spin up more servers and handle more load. In our industry, we have to be 100% precise. We don't have an extra room to give you. We can't put you on the next flight. We don't have the opportunity to miss on that target. So being precise is complicated when you're dealing with thousands of websites like TripAdvisor and people that cancel last minute or they don't show up. Their plans change. The ability to deliver accurate, real-time information on our inventory is essential to our business model. And if we don't get that right, really bad things can happen. Let's walk through a scenario for a minute. Let's imagine you're coming back to Vegas this weekend to watch the Foo Fighters in concert, and it's your daughter's Sweet 16. You're the coolest parent ever, so you're bringing her back to Vegas, and her best friend to go see the concert, and you arrive at your hotel to check in. And you get there, and they give you that look in their eye and say, I'm sorry, we're fully booked and we're sold out. And you're sitting here thinking, can that really happen? How does that happen? Now, one of two things will actually happen next. Now, either that hotel owner is going to walk you out of their own pocket to a competitor down the street, put you up in their hotel, or you're going to spend the next few hours walking to every hotel within a 5-mile radius just to find out that everybody's here for the concert and it's completely sold out. All that cool parent cred you earned is just completely gone. What you'll probably never do again is want to visit our hotel or stay at our hotel again. Now that situation, that use case, is a very bad example on many fronts. It's a terrible experience for the guest. It's a terrible experience for the hotel owner. And honestly, that can happen with any brand's hotel and the system and the ecosystem that we're delivering and building with. Hitting a perfect bullseye and being exactly perfect is very complicated. But our hotel owners make the most money when we sell out every single room, every single night. So for us, this is a huge opportunity, an obvious opportunity for machine learning and AI. So using AI and ML and partnering and working with Amazon and the technologies available in the cloud, we've rolled out a smart system that will take a look at all of the information we have available to us, predict things like cancellations, look at information like what concerts are going on, all the data that we have available that we pull in from multiple sources, and try to get the exact right strategy to fill every single room, every single night, without ruining anybody's Sweet 16 birthday party. Now, our AWS ML tools are processing billions of records, data points every day to help those owners get it right. Our systems are continuously learning, continuously updating, and we're continuously evolving them. A lot of the stuff that we saw announced yesterday actually is going to continue to help us on that journey as we go through trying to get the right opportunity for our right guests with this overbooking strategy and with our profitability strategies. Now, this is just the tip of the iceberg and only one example of how being in the cloud and leveraging the technologies that Amazon provides are helping us deliver that right experience for the guest. Now, maybe someday you're going to actually show up in one of our hotels and you'll be greeted by a Sumerian host, or maybe you'll visit one of our hotels in an AR experience in your mobile app. The digital world we're living in is evolving faster than any of us can keep up with and do alone. That's why at Choice we're excited about working with Amazon and AWS and accelerating our cloud journey while we continue to deliver industry firsts that delight and inspire our guests, because our business is you. So thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to have Will come up from Deliveroo.
Thanks very much. Now, want to talk today about our journey with AWS at Deliveroo. Now, to start off with, I hope everyone's heard of our company, but just in case you haven't, we're on a mission to become the definitive food company. What Google means to the internet, what Spotify means to music, what Apple means to consumer hardware, and what Amazon means to e-commerce and obviously online cloud infrastructure. We want to be that for food as well. What's really interesting about the industry as a whole is we believe we've started a new wave of food delivery. You've seen like multiple stages in the evolution of how people interact and how people order food over time. In wave one, people order over the phone, you have a paper menu, someone comes through the door and pops like, hey, Bob's Pizza is now delivering to your area, and maybe you give them a call, and maybe you try them out. In wave two, you saw a lot of online businesses enter into this food space, this food marketplace. But the way they did it was not really any different to what was happening already. All that was happening was it was just an aggregation of a marketplace. People taking all of these Bob's Pizzas and Jim sandwiches, sticking them together, putting them in an online aggregator, and then giving you as a consumer access to those different points. You have slow, unpredictable delivery. You have the same experience fundamentally as what you had before. But, hey, you've got an online portal that you can order through it. That's kind of OK. What we see in wave three is a logistics-enabled marketplace. And it's fascinating to see, no matter where you are in the world, there is a player innovating in this space, whether that be Uber Eats or DoorDash doing that here in the States, whether that be Rappi or iFood doing that in South America, whether that be us doing it in Europe and in APAC. Everyone is thinking about how do we get to this space where we can offer the restaurants who don't deliver themselves, where we offer the consumer the ability to track their orders in real time because we're running the logistics marketplace itself, where we can control the pace and the predictability of delivery because we know where every single rider is, and we know exactly, because of all of the aggregation of data, how long that order is going to take, how long this kitchen is going to be preparing the food for. All of these factors become an aggregation of data, an aggregation of technology, and enable better consumer experiences. And we believe that's a really fundamental and an exciting shift in the way that people are eating. Now, we've built a company as a result that's global in scale. We started, with no orders, but the very first order was in London, in the UK, delivered by Will Shu, our founder himself. And you can see there's just an exponential growth which has happened there. Back at the start of 2015, we did our first international expansions, and that started us off on a trend of just incredible growth. Now, as I said before, our ambition is to become the definitive food company. And what's interesting about this in the context of the conference we're all at is the story of our growth is also the story of our architecture. We're a digital-first business, so everything which the consumer does to interact with us comes through our site, comes through our mobile apps first. So when people think about our product, even though it has its roots in the physical world, it's actually very much a digital product. Now, that means actually at the same time as having that digital-first customer experience, we have to have a digital-first backend. We don't have a bricks-and-mortar set of stores or a set of hotels or a set of planes which we're having to manage. We're having to manage this giant aggregation of data, this giant aggregation of connections between all of these different pieces in order to provide the customer service which people are interested in. Now, what's interesting is we all talk about the digital revolution. We think a lot about the consumer first in this, as we all should, obviously. Thinking about the ways that consumers are interacting with your brand, thinking about how people are choosing to select and consume the goods which we have. But at the same time, the digital revolution is just as much about how you build the structure of companies, how you build the infrastructure of your industry. If you think about the business trajectory that we're on, it was founded back in 2013, and if you looked at our growth trajectory at the time, you would have said, wow, that looks pretty good. You've got a nice, happy exponential curve going on there. It looks like everything is going fantastically. I'm glad, if you were building this business 20 years ago, I'm glad we bought like a whole bunch of extra rack space in that data center to make sure that we could actually get, cope with this growth. The problem is, and it's a lovely problem to have, is even though that growth itself was exponential and really, really exciting to see at the time, that you can scale back down and transfer onto the rest of the growth that we've seen since then, and you'll see the same curve, that same pattern repeated. If you're having to bog down the entire company thinking about how do we scale our infrastructure, how do we scale our enterprise engineering in order to hit these goals, at the same time as you're actually trying to achieve business outcomes, you're in a far, far less agile, a far, far less innovative place than you can be if you're managing a scaling architecture which is managed to a large extent for you. There's two interesting aspects of this as well. One, obviously, the absolute scale of this increases, which is one problem. But two, you'll notice the amplitude of the waves also increases. And this is something which, as a service to manage, becomes increasingly challenging. Christmas Day becomes not just a reduction in spend of a smaller amount. That doubles and triples and quadruples at the same time as the whole rest of the business scales at the same time. So each time you're managing the scale of business, it's not just managing the overall amount, it's managing the changes and the speed of those at the same time. What's been fantastic for us is was having the opportunity as a young company of being digital first, of being a true digital native organization. We've never had to migrate from enterprise architecture, which we've had to have managed on premises. I'm really, really thankful for that, to be honest. Because each time we're managing these services, they're being managed in the cloud. They're being managed through scaling architecture. They're being managed through things which we're being provided with the tools in order to focus on what we really, really need to, our business and delighting our customers. A couple of really great examples just from the Amazon side. Obviously, we've got Amazon ECS and Aurora, both managing the amount of containers that we have and allowing us to actually place our architecture into meaningful structures, and then having Aurora be able to manage the scaling and management of those systems, allowing us to really focus on the architectural decisions about how do we plan our services, how do we plan the flow of data between each of these things. In the same way, we're really excited about Elasticache and Elasticsearch, which do the similar things for our data structures. Data really is at the heart of everything that we do. It's, as a digital native company, in a large way, these are our products. And one thing we're really excited about, especially after the announcements from yesterday, where SageMaker is going to be taking us on this journey. We're using it a little bit already to power some of the consumer personalization and carousels which we've been seeing, and the ability to put these tools into the hands of developers and into the hands of people who don't necessarily need to be data science specialists is quite exciting as another way to enable and structure that growth. So when we're talking about building this architecture that scales, just a couple of key points to revisit and retell. Making sure that we can enable business at any scale is fantastic for us. And this is obviously great when we were starting out, but it also is really important for us when we're thinking about innovations, thinking about new services that we're trying to try. Each time we want to do a new innovative product, each time we want to build a new feature for our customers, that can happen at a micro scale. We don't have to plan the architecture for that. We can spin up a couple of new EC2 instances, pop up a couple of RDS databases, and then off it goes. Over time, it can handle fault tolerance really effectively. So this is that amplitude point. You want to be able to have a service which not just handles the scale effectively, but also handles the increasing amplitude of the different behaviors that you'll see. Can handle increasing service complexity. We've talked a fair bit today about personalization and consumer expectations. Those mean additional services on the back end, additional interactions between the different data points that you have, additional things which grow in an exponential or multiplicative fashion, not a straight linear when you start introducing additional factors of complexity to take into account those consumer needs. And at the same time, most importantly, doesn't sacrifice speed of development. We're in a dramatically growing and dramatically changing industry, and if we're not innovating, somebody else is. And so speed to market and speed of development, speed of innovation are the things which keep our business alive. Now, one of the things that is really important about that speed is actually how you do decision-making with data. Now, I just want to pause here for a second, because this is something which is very close to my heart, personally. One of the things which we will talk a lot about in the digital revolution is, doesn't this mean that you've just automated away people's ability to do stuff? Doesn't this just mean that you've taken away decision-making from people, put it into the hands of machines? Doesn't this mean that all of these things which you're saying, we're now automating, we're losing control and we're losing ability to actually influence? And I think the most powerful examples of adequate use of data and impressive innovation in companies comes from this idea that there are certain decisions and certain processes which you want machines to be able to take, and certain things which you want people to be able to take. And having services which do that, and having services which blend across, is going to be one of the most powerful drivers of change in our digital age. So when we talked about the scaling of architecture, it was great to be able to take away the decision and the need for people to spend time on that infrastructural decision, to spend time on maintaining physical servers. And the same thing happens with database decision-making. We obviously have a really complex business where we're delivering millions of orders to people every single week. Back in the very, very early days of our business, which rider picked up which order was decided by a person. Fast forward that a little bit more forward. How many riders you want to have in a particular area? Again, that was decided by a person. Next up, deciding when to surge, like how much you should pay your riders because of bad weather conditions or busyness in the network. Those are things that were decided by people because they hadn't been codified, they hadn't been turned into data process decision making. But each of these things, at a certain point, becomes a high-volume decision-making point. It becomes something which people can no longer deal with. It becomes analogous to these architectural decisions. At that point, you can immediately take a machine, take that decision-making, and take that codified human knowledge and turn it into something which no longer impedes the scale and impedes the ability of your business to grow. So whenever you think about automation, it's actually something which isn't taking away power from people. It's enabling them to focus on the things which really, truly matter. Next stage down, you've got scientific processes for scientific processes for tight decisions. Where you have this ability in the network to carefully define and understand processes and carefully understand and define data sets, you can turn that decision making into scientific-based decisions. You can turn that into data-driven decisions where you wouldn't have been able to before. The collection of all of these data points gives you the ability not only to use it for data-driven decisions by machines, but also allows you to structure and create scientific knowledge inside your company. And last is kind of where that leaves your people in this. People are great at strategic decision-making. If you've devolved your strategy to a machine, to a process, to something which is not truly alive, at that point, you've taken the innovation, you've taken the strategy out of your business. The more of the time and effort which you can put out of all of your people into determining the strategy, into working out what the innovation is going to be, into working out where you can delight your customers next in ways that only people can, the more chance you have of reaping all of the benefits that you have from the structure of a system. And speaking of systems, our approach for cloud is not something which we feel is just something which we want to stick into architecture. It's not something which is just native to the digital processes which you would naturally think of from a digital business. When you're actually thinking about how you think about each of the pieces that exist inside your business, you can think about process, you can think about productivity as well as platform, and you can think about these data structured processes. So when we think about data, we have a lot of monitoring through Datadog, our data warehousing and business decision-making machinery through Snowflake, and Amazon obviously providing the backbone of the data services which power our business. The platform itself, the compute and front end of a business, obviously it's in Amazon as well. But when we think about productivity tools, we think about cloud-based solutions there. We've recently been through a whole process of switching the majority of work that people do from spreadsheets and documents hosted locally inside their machines, specifically to cloud-based office solutions like Google G Suite, specifically because we think that provides collaboration, it provides security, but it changes the working dynamic because it actually puts connectivity and it puts the cloud-first thinking into actually how people are interacting with their word processing. And lastly, when I think about processes inside the business, again, you want to be taking tools like Workday for HR, Salesforce for your sales teams, which then again link them together, put those into a cloud-based infrastructure, and think about using those things to determine your business from every single possible angle. We talked a little bit in some of the other presentations. We said culture is a theme for today, and actually, in a lot of ways, the tools which you're using to determine those are articulations of your culture. In the same way that being cloud first on your platform enables us to scale rapidly and innovate, every time we're choosing a tool for any part of our business, that same thought process applies. So coming back to the start, our ambition is to become the definitive food company. And as a digital business, this means that our architecture and our systems and our processes, all of these things come together to become an articulation of that vision, articulation of that strategy. I believe food is one of the most interesting industries which exists out there. It's fascinating to see the change in consumer intent and behavior, where something which is purely functional and was seen as I don't want to say a boring product, but trying to work out what you have for your office lunch is not necessarily the most exciting thing. But actually now we're seeing cultural identity and people's own internal identity being tied up with the food choices which they make. Our decision to be the definitive food company as a whole is taken with care and articulation in that, because we believe that when we're delivering something, we're not just delivering any other good which could be positioned. What we're delivering is something which says something about a personal choice and says something about someone's identity. So being able to have the strategy and the thinking to be able to think about all of the different ways that we can attack that food business, rather than having to be concerned with how we're going to deal with the scaling which we're getting from the architecture, rather than dealing with how we manage the volumes of transactions that we're going to get, is something which we'll be able to do only through the power of technology. Thank you very much. And I think, David, you come back to the stage.
Three incredible stories of business transformation, from heritage players who have been housing and accommodating guests for over 80 years, to an airline that's inspiring and connecting travelers for more than 50 years, to a digital native with just a few years' experience, all driving innovation through their business and leveraging the advantages of cloud and AWS to bring personalized guest experiences and operational efficiency through the heart of their business. As a reminder to each of you, we have another session this afternoon at 12:15 here at the MGM. It's focused on personalization in the travel and hospitality industry. You're all most welcome to that. We also have a session tomorrow, a Chalk Talk session with a technical orientation towards turning travel and hospitality call centers into customer service experiences at the heart of your enterprise. And again, you'd all be most welcome to that. We'd be grateful if you could complete the session feedback in the mobile application, and courtesy of our Amazon family business, Audible, we know that most of you have probably traveled here today from somewhere else, and so please pick up a leaflet on your way out with a coupon code for a free audiobook for your journey home. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our three inspirational speakers. I'd like to thank Kenny from Korean Airlines, Brian from Choice Hotels, and Will from Deliveroo for sharing their stories, and thank each of you for investing your time with AWS and reInvent. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.